Pope Benedict XVI announced yesterday that he'll resign at the end of the month. It was a surprising announcement for many people because a pope hasn't resigned in 600 years. Bishop David Ricken is the leader of the Green Bay Catholic Diocese. He joins me now in the studio with more on the Pope's announcement. Bishop, thank you very much for joining us.
You're welcome.
And I talked about the surprise. You were surprised originally. Now that you've had a day to think about it, what are your feelings about the resignation?
Yeah, Pete, I was totally surprised. It hasn't been done in so long in the church, so it caught everybody off guard. I don't think the Pope had told many people even inside the Vatican, so it was truly a surprise for everyone. Now that I've had time to sit with it a little bit and reflect on it, he's been working in the Vatican for 30 years, I think. He's been there a long, long time, and he just doesn't feel he has the physical stamina, he says, to be up to the job from the point of view of all the physical requirements and the vigor and being able to really engage the world today with all the energy it takes. So I understand it was a very difficult decision for him to take, I'm sure, but I understand that there's only so much any human being can do as well.
Busy schedule there.
Schedule, yeah.
And you've met him a few times. Tell me about those meetings.
Yeah, I have, Pete. I first met him. I worked in the Vatican for 4 years, from 1996 to 2000. I didn't work under him. I was in another department. But he would walk across St. Peter's Square every morning to go to his office, and people would stop and talk to him. He was always so kind and hospitable to people. In that job he had as the head of the doctrine of the faith, our faith office, he had a lot of tough stuff he had to do. But personally, he was so gentle, so kind, and he speaks many different languages, so people would stop and ask him questions, get to know him a little bit, and he was always so gentle. He's one of the most gentle and tranquil people I've ever met in my life. Very peaceful inside, and you pick that up when you're with him.
Now, for those who don't know, what's the next step at selecting a pope? What happens?
Well, as we say, normally you would go through the mourning period of 8 days, but now that he's resigned, the Pope can pretty much establish when the consistory will happen. And after the 28th of February, he'll turn the running of the church over to other people. One, the head of the College of Cardinals, will conduct the actual affairs of the election and lead those. And then Cardinal Bertone, who's the Secretary of State, he'll be what they call the Camerlingo. He will run the patrimony of the Holy See and other practical matters.
Now, will we ever see an American Pope, do you think? And because, it would be very surprising. That would be very surprising, I'm assuming, at this point in time. But didn't we have surprises in the past? Like Pope John Paul was somewhat of a surprise, wasn't he?
Oh, yes. Pope John Paul coming from Poland, that was a whole new shift from mostly Italian popes over the hundreds of years before that. The fact of American Pope would be quite a surprise. Usually they're very careful not to choose from a superpower, someone to actually run the church, because there could be difficulties. But who knows? I mean, once the cardinals get into seclusion and really pray and talk with one another and face the challenges, who knows what's going to happen? It's going to be very interesting to watch all of this.
You know, it's become a very technology-driven time.
Yes. Yeah.
Will we see white smoke, or will we see a tweet?
Probably see both. I don't think we'll give up on the tradition of the white smoke, because people will be in the piazza with thousands and thousands of people, and they'll, just out of respect for tradition, I'm sure they'll have the white smoke or the black smoke if they don't have a pope yet.
Do you think with Pope Benedict resigning, will this set a precedent? Will popes think more, I'm just not physically able to do it anymore and I have to resign?
It certainly takes the pressure off of feeling they have to remain until death. They don't have to resign either, so they're appointed for life and elected for life. But the fact that he's done this now, it's sort of a break in history, and it may make it easier down the road if a pope decides he doesn't have the vitality, or he's sick or impaired in some way, then he could certainly choose to do this himself.
How will he be remembered as pope?
I think he will be remembered as a great intellectual who was very pastoral at the same time. It was beautiful to see the transition in him from the time he was head of the doctrine of the faith to becoming pope. He became extremely pastoral, which surprised everybody. So he's reached out in many visits. His teaching became much more understandable, not so intellectually, theologically oriented, but so that people can understand it. And that's his job, and he did that beautifully.
Bishop David Ricken, thank you very much for joining us.
Pete, thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it.
You have a great day.
God bless, and you too.
And we'll be back with more on Good Day Wisconsin.